And I want to welcome everybody back to another lively discussion on aging today. We are the podcast where together we're exploring the many options to aging on your terms. You can find Aging Today and our past 8 years of programs on our website. All you got to do is go to agingtoday.us and you can scroll through all the many topics that we've discussed over the 8 years on the aging process. And if those of you that are podcasters and that you want to follow us on your favorite podcast channel, all you got to do is go to Spotify. You can go to Pandora. You can even now go to YouTube because we are now live as you see us, and we're very excited to be able to expand our footprint onto YouTube. And then for those of you that want to, ask any questions on the aging process, or if you have an incredible guest that you think would be intriguing to have on the Aging Today podcast, all you got to do is reach out to me, your host, Mark Turnbull, and my email is mark@agingtoday.us. It's Mark with a K at agingtoday.us.
If I'd been out till 2:45, would you lock the door? Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
And now the podcast where together we discuss proactive aging on your terms, connecting to the professional advice of our special guests while creating better days throughout the aging process. Now here's your host, Mark Turnbull.
And as you know, this is a podcast about the aging process, and we're so excited to have you join us. And one of the things that we always say, if you're not too busy being born, you're too busy aging. And we want you to know that we're trying to get every angle to the aging process. And one of our missing links, believe it or not, has been the best medicine of all time, even all the way back to the biblical times in the book of Proverbs, that laughter is a incredible medicine. It's an incredible therapeutic tool. And here to guide us along that way is the funny man himself. It is Stefano Iaboni. Stefano, welcome to Aging Today.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
And so I am very excited about this conversation because I love laughter. I love people that are funny. And I'm not funny. I don't know what it is about, me, but my sense of humor is probably drier than people like, but I do enjoy laughter. I think that the best medicine that anybody can have is laughter.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with you. And I want to make a distinction between laughter and humor, okay?
Okay.
They do go together, but they're not exactly the same thing. So humor, maybe it's more personal, it's more cultural. I'm from Italy, so maybe something that is funny in Italy may not be funny in the United States or the other way around. But laughter is universal. We all know how to do it. Generally speaking, we all know how to laugh. And as a matter of fact, as human, we first learn how to laugh before we learn how to speak.
Yeah. And I think that's well said. And I'm also, curious about a little bit of your story. And so I'm curious about your story. We always start every one of our segments out with what's in your story. Mm-hmm. And I think that our audience would love to hear about you. And, in particular, when was it in your life story that you realized that you were actually funny?
That's a very good question. I don't know if as a child I was like one of those funny kids, like the clown of the classroom. I don't really know. I guess I was kind of shy, maybe a little introverted, but I was exposed because of my dad. My dad was in the movie industry. I was lucky enough to be exposed to arts and from a very young age. So I had there were a lot of artists and performers that would come to our house, and maybe that was maybe my initiation into that kind of world. When I was in my 20s, I wanted to become like a circus performer, a professional circus performer. So I joined the circus school with no idea what that meant. There was a lot of physical stuff that I had no idea that was part of the training, right? So I think that laughter really helped me out in that, because maybe I wasn't so skillful as like an acrobat, but I could always rely on the laughter. I could always like rely or like make people laugh. And that was like the first experience that I had as a performer there. Like we would go and do shows, you know, and some of my like the other students that were in the school with me were very, very skillful, you know, physically. Maybe I wasn't as much as they were, but I was kind of like the funny guy. I was like the ringmaster that could bring everybody together through laughter. So that was maybe the first exposure that I had as a performer in comedy. And then basically from there, I kind of like continued through that path. I kind of like stopped with the circus and I was more into the improv and just the performance itself that didn't really necessarily rely on skills. I felt like with the circus, like people also a lot of time did rely on the skill, right? But I was having a lot of fun being the ringmaster or like getting the crowd together. That was the funniest part of the thing. That was the coolest part of the thing for the show for me, to get the people together, because I was able to like play. I was able to like look people in the faces, and it wasn't about, you know, the skill. I was also juggling at that time, and I felt like the moment that I would like grab the juggling clubs or the juggling balls, I would like lose my crowd, because then I would like be so focused on that skills that I would lose the eye connection. And that was, to me, that was the main thing. That was the best part of the show. Oh, I'm in that moment. I'm connecting. We're looking each other into the eyes. I can see if people are enjoying this, if people are getting bored, if they need more, they need less. That was the best part for me. So I've been doing this for the past 20 years. I've been producing and directing and performing comedy for the past 20 years. And I was lucky enough to travel around the world with my comedy show. And I went to over 15 countries around the globe. And I was also in places where I did not speak the language. They did not speak my language. But there was this thing that like brought us together, that helped us connect. And that thing was laughter.
Yeah. And you mentioned the distinction between humor and laughter. And I love that definition. Never thought of it that way. What is the main, as you traveled the world, what are some of the main tenets to humor that works in, you know, that elicits the response of laughter in Italy or other parts of the world as opposed to the United States?
Yeah. So the type of humor that I do, it's mainly visual, non-spoken, not a mime, but like think like Mr. Bean, right? So I don't really rely on language, which also make it more universal. I think we laugh when we can relate, when we experience, where I recreate a situation that you experienced before. So you create that complicity and you feel like, oh, I know that feeling. Oh, I've been there. Or, oh, I know how does it feel like, let's say, to walk in my office and having like something stuck between my teeth that I haven't noticed. And I'm talking with everybody. And up to one point, somebody's like, hey, Stefano, you got something there. Or, you know what I mean? That feeling of like, oh gosh, you know, that then eventually makes you laugh. So I think generally speaking, we laugh at things that we can relate to. And then also, it depends on the culture, it depends on where you're at, you know, and depends on the age of your crowd, you know. Maybe like younger audiences laugh at things that they can relate to the most, let's say, most basic, primitive way of comedy, which is slapstick, right? So it's like somebody falls, somebody gets hit, or, you know, there's a fart or something like that. They laugh at that thing because for a little one, that's their world, right? That's the thing that they relate to, you know. And for us, for adult, maybe it's more emotions, you know, that we experience, you know. And interesting enough, apparently, we don't laugh. The majority of the case, we don't really laugh about the joke itself, but we laugh because of what laughter creates, and because laughter is also contagious, right? So if I hear somebody laugh, generally speaking, I will laugh with them. It's very interesting. It's fascinating to see why do people laugh at certain things that do not laugh at other things. But I would say in general, it's because we can connect, we can relate, because we had that experience in our life, so we know what it feels like.
Yeah. And is there one particular joke that works cross-culturally? I mean, if there was one that could stand out for you.
I say, every time I introduce myself, I say, hi, everybody, my name is Stefano, and I'm from Italy. I'm sorry, nobody's perfect.
Okay. And that works no matter where you go,
works.
cross boundaries.
Just speaking, it works.
Yeah. And that probably may be true for, like, if I went on the road and said the same thing, I could say the same thing about me and apologize for being an American.
Exactly. You could be in a different country and say, hey, my name is Mark. I'm from America. I'm sorry about that. Nobody's perfect. They'll usually get a laugh.
Yeah. And this is a show about aging, and we're going to talk a little bit about the humor. We're going to talk about laughter. We're going to talk about laughter in the aging process.
Yes.
As you describe, your nationality, as being one of those transferable, jokes that can cross boundaries. Does age also do that? So in other words, if you used an age joke here in America, would that also work in Italy? Would it work in Russia or in China?
I would say so. Because I think that laughter is like the easiest, the most way of communication between two people, right?
Yeah.
And also it's a very simple way to have people connect. In my experience, like with working in like assisted living facility, as a performer and as a facilitator, the most interesting things that happens is like, it's not really about the performance itself. It's not really about the joke itself, but it's what laughter creates, which is that it's the bonding. It makes us all together. It makes us we're all the same. We're all sharing one experience at the same time together. And that's the beauty of laughter, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
We all like having that moment. We have being present and just having that experience through laughter.
And would that be the goal? Your mission as you address a group of people? How important is it for you to know who your audience is? So in other words, if you go into a senior living community, or whether it's here in the United States or whether it's in Italy, how different would it be, or are the principles the same? Because seniors doesn't matter your nationality. I'm assuming that seniors face some of the same issues.
Yes, I totally agree with you. They do face the same thing. And I like to know, generally speaking, the audience that I'll be working with, but I also love the fact that, like, I want to be surprised. I don't want to know exactly how many people are going to be there or what kind of demographic. I like the element of improvisation, and I like to be... Because that's one thing that happens with laughter. We have to be present. We have to be in the moment. And having 20 years of performance experience gives me the ability of like be able to read the room very easily. So I can understand this is not working. This is not appropriate. Yes, this is working. Oh yes, they love this. Let's dig more. Let's go more in that direction.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I would say that really, like, is the connection that laughter can create, beside everything else, beside the performance, beside the jokes. I always have people that want to talk. That's the most important thing. They want to talk. They want to know. They want to share their stories. They want to tell me when they know that I'm from Italy. They want to tell me they've been in Italy or they have somebody in the family that is from Italy. It's because laughter allow us to do this. It's like opens the door to that kind of conversation.
Yeah. I was also, as you were describing that, I was thinking about the audience when you get in front of a group. What are some of the probing types of jokes that or material that you would use to get to know your audience a little bit better? Do you have is there a process that you go through and you go, oh, that didn't work, so now I've got to adjust?
I think the first thing is really like, can I get a laugh within the first minute or something? So can I help them loosen up within the first minute or something?
Yeah.
That's like a good way to start, right? So then I understand, okay, the people here, yes, are willing to laugh. They're open for laughter. This is what they want to go for, right? So it's like, try to do something funny or tell a joke or something that like might induce laughter. Right?
Yeah.
That's the first approach for me.
So what do you do when you get a group that is just deadpan?
Yes,
and
very good question.
everything that you've tried just isn't getting them to move on their seat.
That could be very painful. That's another side of laughter, right? But it doesn't work. It could be extremely painful for the, for the person that is delivering it. They're trying to deliver that laughter, right? So sometimes I work in different environment, like maybe, let's say in corporate worlds or different kind of businesses where you might experience that, right?
Yeah.
So I always try to play with like simple stuff or stuff that can relate, or like one of the simple games that it depends on the crowd, but I have two things that I usually work with, that I usually ask people to do is like, first is like, try to create a group, try to create a sense of like belonging, right? So without going into like, what is your position in your company? What do you do for work? Cause that actually creates separation. Cause then people start thinking like, oh, this guy, oh, he's the CEO. Oh, he's a doctor. So then you create like this thing in your mind. Oh, it's smarter than me. He's better than me. No, I try to just like, let's just work on the names. Let's just play where we're at now. So one of the things that I do is like, can you say your name and then maybe say, hi, my name is such and such, but a lot of people call me, and have them repeat their name backwards. It's a funny moment because like, oh, it puts them out of the mindset, and they go somewhere else for a moment. It's like, oh wait, I got to think differently. And then generally speaking, when you say your name backwards, it makes things a little awkward, and it might generate a laughter, right? Because maybe your name backwards sounds really funny, or maybe you don't laugh at your own name, but some other folks might laugh at the sound of that, or your name backward. Or another thing that I do that also depends on the crowd, I say, could you say your name and say something that you like, something very simple, keep it brief, maybe a food that you like or a place that you love, and then say that, but this time do it with your tongue sticking out of your mouth. So say like that, and then talk like that, and you look ridiculous, and that might induce laughter. Those are very simple.
So what you're doing with that is you're tearing down some of those barriers that, we create with titles and roles that are happening in companies or family structures, whatever it may be.
Absolutely.
So my name would be Cram.
See?
Yeah.
Yes. It made you laugh, right? It made you smile.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so how do you say Stefano backwards?
What's Stefano backwards? Oh, Naf. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
I can't even think it.
Yeah. I mean, there'd be some names that would be very challenging.
Yes.
The shorter names are easier.
Yeah, but you just said that. Yeah, that was absolutely right, because they're like, for a moment, we're all the same. It's not about their social status. It's not about your, whatever that is. You're being the same. And for a moment, you don't have to be perfect. Right.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes in society or in the workplace, or it depends, there is a lot of demand of we've been pushed oh, you got to be the best at this, you got to be the stronger, you got to be the most good looking, or whatever that is, right? Always that. But maybe sometimes it's also good to be and also be silly, or just let go and be ridiculous in front of somebody else. It's very liberating.
Yeah. And I think that laughter is it transcends cultures. It transcends time. Mm-hmm. I think back in the king's court, there was always the court gesture.
Yes.
And the court gesture had a very important role to play.
Yes.
And if they didn't play it very well, they got their heads cut off.
I know.
I mean, that's commitment.
For sure, right? But interesting enough, in a different way, I experienced that when I was working in places where the culture was very different, because being this gesture figure, being this clown figure, I was becoming something else for them. I was a different identity. It wasn't me anymore. It wasn't Stefano anymore. It was something else that was oh, this person is the one that brings the laughter. So I was allowed to do things that maybe weren't allowed if I was just being myself, right? Yeah. I was in places like Kuwait or Dubai, where maybe physical contact is not well accepted, but being that character, I was able to do it. I was able to have physical contact. I was able to look people in the eyes, because I became the gesture, because I became something else. So basically, the society, they allow me to like, okay, no, it's fine. It's not
You
not
get
real,
special
right?
permissions.
Yes, it's not like a real human being. You're something else. Oh, you're the funny person, right? You're the laugher man. So it's like you're allowed to do that. Like the gesture back in the days, he was the only one that could make fun of the king without getting in trouble, right? Because he was seen as something else, not really human. It was something else. It's like a shaman that brings laughter into this society.
Yeah. And it was a really good test of that day also in the king's court. If the king was laughing, then everything was good in the kingdom. But when the king stopped laughing, not so good.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to be the jester.
No.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your audiences. Who are the main audiences that you bring your laughter to?
I have, because I perform and I do many different things, it really depends. Like as a performer lately, I've been working a lot with like an assisted living facility, which I do love so much because people that are very extremely appreciative, they love to laugh, they love to be engaged, and they just, as I said, it's a great way to see people connect, right?
Yeah.
And then I might do a comedy show for like different crowds for adults, or I might do, team building or workshops or training for corporates, which is a totally different crowd, right? But laughter and humor, it's always the tool to help people connect and help people bond and boost like creativity and just basically just help people having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you address corporate world, you address the senior world. Is there any other worlds that you flow in and out of in particular that you've found because I would imagine just like anybody with any craft, you're trying different audiences to find your niche.
Yes. I also had the experience of working with I am a cancer survivor myself. And I also had the experience of like working with cancer patient and medical staff that do work with cancer patient. And these are people that deal with a lot of stress, right? Not just because of the illness itself, but, also staff, they deal with a lot of stress. And it's just interesting to see, sometimes in that environment, it feels very hard to laugh about the situation or laugh about what is going on, right? But very interesting to see how laughter can change people's spirit and perspective within seconds. Everything changed. The room changed. Somebody starts laughing. Everybody joins in. There is always my experience. I always had maybe resistance at first, because we have this concept of this is a very serious thing. We're dealing with cancer. We're dealing with a life-threatening situation here. So it's very delicate. But laughter, it's life can really break down barriers and help people connect even in very, very difficult situation.
When you're addressing a group, we've talked a little bit about, your mission is to get everybody to laugh, get everybody together. What are some of the other goals that you're trying to accomplish when you address a group? And then how do you do that? How do you bring that group together?
One of the things is also allow yourself to be silly, let go, and just
yeah, but that's tough.
It is,
especially for people that are very reserved.
Yes.
Do you have certain techniques that you've found to be effective for those that are more reserved than others to get them to loosen up? And you can demonstrate it.
Yeah. So one of the things,
because I'm pretty uptight. I'm as tight as the skin on a grape. So if you can loosen me up.
Well, with the name thing work a little bit, right? I made you smile. I think because a lot of things happen in our brain when we laugh. We don't realize there is a huge science behind laughter, right? And one of the things that we do when we laugh, we activate something that is called mirror neurons. So basically, and this is funny to me because it was a group of Italian scientists that discovered this. They were studying apes, and they discovered apes mimic facial expressions, right? So they imitate each other's facial expression. And we as humans, we're just basically smarter apes. We do similar thing. I give an example, a parent that is trying to feed their child. child, right? If they approach the child with the mouth open like this, the child will probably take it. They will imitate the facial expression.
Oh, yeah.
Will do the
Yeah.
same thing.
I remember doing that with my 3 sons.
Yes.
Yep.
If you approach your sons with a face like this,
Yeah.
that's probably not going to go that well, right?
Right.
So one of the very simplest thing to do, this is why laughter is like one of the most direct way of communication. If I approach a stranger, if I approach somebody and I smile,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
possibly see what's happening.
Yeah.
Possibly,
I got to smile.
You're gonna imitate my facial expression.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was really funny because when you smiled, my first reaction was, "What are you doing? I'm not going to smile.
Mhm.
You can't make me."
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it went inside of me, "Oh, I smiled."
Yes. It's like almost automatic.
It's breaking down some of those barriers.
And I did nothing. There was no joke.
Why?
There was nothing verbal. I just smiled.
Yeah. Why do we do that? Is it for protection? And then once we feel comfortable that we can
Because
let loose and then it's safe?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's the direct communication, is that you feel that I'm not a threat, that I'm not, this is not a dangerous situation. I'm smiling. I'm not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes in society, smiling at a stranger, smiling at somebody that you never met might even get you in trouble, right? So the easy getaway of this is like, oh, you just look like a friend of mine. You're identical as a friend of mine, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable, but I was smiling because you just remind me of this friend of mine that lives in whatever.
Yeah.
Did you know that laughter is actually one of the very first forms of communication that we learn? Long before babies can utter their first words or string together coherent sentences, they instinctively laugh. This happens as early as 3 months old. It's one of the purest, most universal languages we have. No translation needed. Laughter connects us before we even know how to speak, acting as a powerful social tool that builds bonds, expresses joy, and creates understanding, all without a single word. This Did You Know moment was provided by today's guest and is brought to you by Royal Hospice of Oregon.
And as you were describing that, I was thinking of the senior population.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go into an adult living community of various kinds, I mean, you've got a lot of challenges to connect with that group.
Yes.
Audio, I mean, they don't hear well.
Yes.
Sometimes maybe they don't see well.
Mm-hmm.
So do you find that you have to exaggerate some of your expressions, whether it's
You might.
or
We might have to exaggerate, but I think I always start with that. I try to make eye contact with everybody in the room with a big smile.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is such and such. I tell the joke about I'm from Italy and I apologize about that. I might get a laugh. But as I say that, I always try to make eye contact and I have a big smile on my face. This is with my years of performance experience, when you are performing with a crowd, there is always going to be somebody that's not going to like you, that is either going to say, oh, I didn't like that. I'm not going to laugh. No matter what, I'm going to try not to laugh at all at that person for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They're having a bad day. They don't like your facial expression, whatever that is, but you're always going to have somebody that will laugh. You're always going to have somebody that's going to, like your stuff, like your jokes. So you go with them. This is my strategy. I try to make those people my friend, okay? And because laughter is contagious, that eventually is going to spread into the room. Same thing when I go into an assisted living facility. There might be some folks that might have some resistance, right? So they might want to, they're going to hold it. They're not going to laugh straight away. But eventually, because other people are having a good time, because other people are laughing, they will eventually join in by the end of the day.
Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yes.
If that's okay with you. And I want you to take us down a path.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you some benefits of laughter and tell me how you would accomplish the laughter with these benefits. So let's take team cohesion. If your purpose was to come in and address my company, your purpose was to come in and to an adult living community, and you want to bring the seniors together.
Yes.
How would you do that specifically?
You simply ask, what are the things that you like? What are the things that you enjoy? And that could be food, activities, artists, whatever, and what are the things that you do not like in general, or things that you cannot stand, attitude or way of doing things, artists, whatever that is, that bring us together. We will within a second, we're going to discover things that we have in common.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I know that most seniors have in common when they live in adult, living communities, most likely, not all communities, but most likely is the food.
Yes. They do like it or do not like it?
No, they don't like it. And so that is such an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
That's like setting the ball up on the tee,
Yes.
right?
So let's go that route. Let's say they do not like the food, okay? Can we come up with an idea, or like, how can we name this food in a different way? Or what's the worst food you ever had here? And if that food had a title, let's say that was a slogan, let's say it was a little pitch for that food, what would you name it? What would you call it? And then can you come up with a very simple phrase that like describe the food in the worst possible way? Exaggeration is also another way to provoke laughter. If you exaggerate, think one thing and expand it to the maximum, right? So if that thing was bad, make it extremely, extremely bad.
Yeah.
So somebody else will relate.
Hyperbole. You're going to use hyperbole.
Exactly.
And hopefully the chef isn't in the room at the same time.
Yes, hopefully not. If they have a good sense of humor, they might get a laugh.
Yeah, they might get a good laugh. Because a lot of times, it's not always the chef's fault. It's the restrictions that they have on how much money they can spend on the food. And, there's so many other factors, so it's not always the chef's fault.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you can get the chef to laugh at himself,
you can say, or you can do another simple exercise is that, like, this food is so bad and then somebody else complete the phrase, okay? This food is so bad and it's terrible when you combine it with this, and somebody else add something else. So we're going around in a circle and everybody's going to add a little something, right? I say something, yes, and that's one of the principles with like improv comedy. You say yes, and accept it. There's acceptance in that sentence, in the statement, and you add something else, exaggerate on something else.
Yeah. And a lot of comedians, and I don't know if you do this, but they'll pick somebody out in the audience. And is that what you're doing in an adult living community, where you've got you're going to pick out somebody that can literally, that you can have a conversation back and forth with?
Yes, I love doing that. I love the element of improvisation. Especially if something unexpected happens, somebody comes in late, or somebody walks in front of me, or that's for me, it's a great element to play with, right? If people saw it, then if I saw it and people saw it, we're all aware of that moment, right? It's no use for me to like pretend it didn't happen. Or if I'm doing something and I drop something by accident, what's the point of pretending that I didn't drop it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, let's play with it. That's also, we laugh at that. It's a mistake, okay? And can I elaborate on that? Can I expand on that mistake? That's a good opportunity for me to like play around and possibly get a laughter. And a lot of time in shows, mistakes become part of my show. So something that wasn't expected, it becomes part of my show. I wasn't planning on doing that, but then I was like, oh, that moment was absolutely genius.
Yeah.
Let's expand on that. Let's play on that.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the benefits of laughter is bringing people together, which we've been talking about, and food is at the forefront. It always is. And it's not even if it's in an adult living community. I think about all the holidays in my past and my childhood, and really the holidays revolve around the food, and where people end up always is in the kitchen. And so food really does play a huge role. And one of the benefits to laughter is that team cohesion. Here's another one that I want you to address, when it comes to, the benefits of laughter, and that is it becomes a stress reducer. And believe it or not, and I think this, in many adult living communities, seniors come from all different walks of life. And so they have a lot of stress.
Yes.
Even though they're in an adult living, everything is taken care of, they still have a lot of stress.
Yes.
So how can you show us a way that you release that stress? I remember when my mom was doing canning, as a kid, and the pot, there was a little release valve on top of the pot that would release the pressure and the steam from as she was canning things. And I think that we all have stress in our lives and we need that release valve.
Yes.
And the court jester just happens to come in and to be that release valve.
Yes. So one thing that happens when we laugh, we produce endorphins. Our brain produces endorphins. Endorphins are natural painkillers. They're the thing that help us deal with stress, right? They help us relax. So one thing that sometimes I do, it depends, but sometimes I do this game and I ask, because interesting enough, our brain cannot tell the difference from a real laughter to a fake laughter. A fake laughter will be something like this. Ha, 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 ha. Our brain will still produce endorphin.
Yeah.
Okay. While I was doing that, I noticed you were smiling a little bit. Okay. Because
well, when I was thinking of was emails are like that. You know, everybody says LOL or they go ha, 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 ha. And I was like, okay, I get it. You're trying to communicate to me that it was funny, but it really wasn't.
So when you watch sometimes like, I don't know if they still do it, but like back in the days in sitcoms, they would have those canned laughter, right? They would like put those fake laughter. So it's just like, it's a way to like, understand, that was a joke. So I'm supposed to laugh, but also it's like, I'm laughing because I hear the sound of laughter. Yeah. So one game that I play sometimes is do that, the fake laughter. I put a timer on and I ask everybody, can we do a fake laughter for 30 seconds, okay? Let's start with the sound ah, 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 ah. Usually within 10 seconds, that fake laughter becomes a real laughter. At first, it's like a little awkward, right? Because adults, generally speaking, need an intellectual reason to laugh, right? It's harder for us to like laugh with no reason. Kids, they don't need a reason. They laugh all day long for whatever, okay? Actually, they did studies. They say kids laugh up to 200 times a day. Adults, 15, okay? It's like, wow, that's interesting, right? But we laugh because of that, because of the sound of laughter. So when I play that game and I say, okay, let's go, and everybody starts, ha, 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 ha. Within seconds, people start laughing. Yeah. Within seconds, start laughing. And what happened is like maybe at first it's just one person, or maybe there's a couple of people that do laugh, but because of that, because laughter is so contagious, eventually the whole room like end up laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, another benefit of laughter, we've talked about, how it builds team cohesion. It's a stress reducer. Talk a little bit about communication and how laughter can assist in our communication styles. Because remember, a lot of times seniors, that are going through dementias or different types of dementias or have some cognition, their communication is broken down, but their minds can still grasp some of the laughter, some of the, funny things that are going on there.
Because laughter creates memory. Okay, we laugh at something, we remember the experience, and so we can always go back, and that could either be or a movie that we watch, a joke that we heard, something that we read about that made us laugh. We create a memory in our brain. So going back, especially when you're dealing with people with like memory loss, going back to a moment or recreating that moment, it's like with music, it happens a similar thing, right? If I listen to a song that was like, that I loved like 20 years ago, that was going to bring me back to that moment. And I'm going to re-experience that moment, like in my body and in my mind. And same thing with laughter. If I laugh at something, it was a moment that if I could remember that moment, or if I come in, one of the things that I also do is like, let's share moments of laughter that we had maybe this past week, this past month. Was there a story? Was something that happened? And I always try to go personal, okay? Go like tell something that happened to you, okay? And then might make other people laugh. That goes back to the humor and laughter, right? It's different, right? Yeah. So some people might find it funny, some people not. But for that person in that moment, you are recreating that moment. You're recreating a memory, right? That's going to bring you back to that moment of joy that you experienced. And by telling somebody else, you might have them join, your thing, or they might relate, or they might think, oh, I had a similar story, so I want to tell my story too. Yeah.
I've seen that quite a bit when I'm talking to seniors that are living with various types of dementias, especially in the early stages of that. What happens is that you can trigger, like you were talking about, the memories, and then people will open up, or the one next to them was going, oh, I had that same experience. Exactly. I had that same memory. And then they begin to tell stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's what they want. They want to feel connected. They want to feel human. That's what we are like. We're social. Human beings are social, right? We need other people to be with, right? So that's what we want. We want to connect, and laughter is a way. I recreated a story. I shared it with somebody else. We laugh about it, and then I made somebody else think about their own stories. Oh, wait, I had a similar thing, or something that happened to my cousin, or something that happened to somebody that I know that was similar to your story. Boom. That's the moment they were like, we're together.
Yeah, it goes back to that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And we all want to be recognized. We all want to be valued and appreciated. And we don't want to be not seen.
Sure.
And the thing about what you can do for a group of people when you bring them together, whether it's seniors or a business team of some kind, you can bring everybody together and engage them with the goal of bringing that team cohesiveness.
Yes. And that's all through games, laughter, and just mindfulness sometimes.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that you were a juggler. Do you use juggling as
I don't juggle anymore. Now I'm doing magic. Lately I've been like exploring magic. And I always had like a passion for magic, but maybe the past 5 or 6 years I've been more studying and performing magic. But I always try to make it funny, because otherwise to me it's just another trick. I always try to make an element. Can I make this trick funny? What joke can I create around this trick? Can I tell a story around this trick?
Can you give us an example of what that would look like?
Develop laughter. Oh, that's a good question. Let me think. What are the things that I do with magic?
What kind of when you say magic, what kind of magic are you using? Cards or?
I do cards. I do sleight of hand and other stuff. But sometimes in my comedy show, I do fake magic. Okay, so it's like magic is not
fake
real magic.
What's fake magic?
Okay, I'm going to show you.
Okay,
I'm going to show you the camera.
Yeah,
I'm do like a finger magic.
All right,
okay.
Sounds
so
good.
This is finger magic. Look, nothing here, nothing there. Oh, look at this. Look at that. What if I happen to do this? I don't know if you can see that. Then I throw this up and catch it there. I'm not doing anything, right? It's just silly stuff, right? But it works, right? Because another thing that works with in comedy, it's when things are unexpected. Okay, that's how you break the rules. I show you something, you're gonna expect something. You're gonna expect something. That's also with like. And it works with any kind of comedy, even in stand-up, right? That's the punchline. I make a statement, I talk about something, and then I change the story completely, right? I make it completely different. So it's like, oh, it's totally unexpected for you. So that's the element of surprise that will make you laugh. When it's like, oh, what is he going to do with this finger, right? Well, you don't expect that. And then I do this silly stuff. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, that's silly. You don't expect that, right?
Yeah.
It's that is the moment that like creates laughter.
Yeah. Describe some other magic that you use in your presentations when you're eliciting that laughter from somebody.
I do.
I love the finger. I mean, that was so simple and so remedial, but it worked.
Yeah. Another thing that I like to do, one of my favorite tricks, it's one of the oldest like magic trick in the world of magic. It's called cups and balls. You may have seen it before. You might have seen it in the street. It's like basically involve 3 cups and 3 little balls that goes on top of it, right? So, and it's basically, there is a lot of sleight of hand where like I make those balls disappear. It looks like they're gone and then they reappear underneath the cup, or maybe they are not in the cup and maybe they're in my hands. You know, there's a lot of, it takes practice, but I always try to make a story behind it, right? I try to tell a little story behind it. One simple joke that I use is like, there is always 3 cups and 3 balls, okay? Oh, how can we say that in different languages? Oh, in Spanish, 1, 2, 3, uno, dos, tres, in French, un, deux, trois, in German, eins, zwei, drei, and then I say something's really silly, it's not a great joke, but I tell it anyway. I say, where I come from, we say it like this, 1, and another one. It's a silly thing, right? Yeah. But that's the right there. I just created the unexpected thing, right? 1, and then you expect, what is he going to say? 3? No. Oh, another one. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
There's your 3.
Yes, that's the 3.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, that's good. So you use magic.
Yes.
You use communication. You use jokes. You're not doing juggling. No. Are there other forms of communication that you're doing with people to elicit that laugh?
Body language,
okay,
right? and physicality, right? So if I think it's like that's one of the there are a lot of people out there that are extremely funny, and they're funny because they don't know they're funny, because they're not trying to be funny. Okay, I love to observe people. Right, it might sound a little weird, but it's one thing that I do.
Well, we all do.
Stores, right? And
Yeah.
you look at the body language, you look at the posture, you look at the way they dress, right? And to me, there is a lot of element of like comedy there, because of the way that people behave, because of the way they are, right? The way they carry themselves, the way they talk could be very funny, but because they're not trying. That's to me is the best thing. When you're not trying to be funny. I'm not here. I don't create the expectation of like, oh, I'm going to tell you a joke. Okay, so you're already thinking in your mind, oh, he's going to tell us a joke. He's going to be funny. He's going to make us laugh. No, can I create a situation where it is just funny because it's just, oh, this is silly, right? Because you can relate, because there is something in my body, the tone of voice, or what I do with my, the way I present myself that like makes you laugh, right? That it's kind of like very like basic clowning to me.
Yeah. And there is an art form to being funny.
Oh, for sure.
And it does take, I think it's a gift. I'm sure it's a gift, but it still takes practice, just like any other gift. And I think that's what people got to realize. And I hear comedians all the time saying that they're always working new material with their audiences to see what kind of response they're going to get, so that they know, can I use it at the next audience?
Yes. And I think one of the main thing is really like, more than try to be funny or try to be the comedian, look at what is real. Look at the reality around you. Look at the things that you do every day. Look at the things that like might help you connect with other folks that they might relate to. Are you a sport fan? Are you something that you do that is very unique to you, that you feel like that might just be ridiculous to you or to other people, but maybe you might be surprised because other folks might do the same thing or might have the same practice, right? So I think like the main thing is really like focus on what is real to you, more than what is funny. And yes, surely it takes practice. You got to go out there. If you're a comedian, you want to go out there and try that material, right? That's what they do a lot in stand-up. I think that is, but not necessarily, just in comedy in general. You might have an idea that you think, oh, this is extremely funny, and then you go out there and you fail, right? Or no, or maybe yes, it is extremely funny. So, great, that's a great idea. I'm going to write it down. And how can I dig even deeper with that? Can I go further with that? How can I expand that concept? Make it more. One of the simplest things that we do in comedy, and we do this all the time, it's storytelling, right? It's like I meet a friend and I tell him a story. I tell him something that happened to me. I tell him about somebody that I met or an experience that I had that was funny. And in comedy, we just exaggerate that. We take something that is, and then I think it works best when it's personal, because once again, because we relate, because we know we've been there, we had experience there. So can I take a simple story or something that happened? My vacation in Croatia this summer, let's say, did something happen on vacation that was funny? How can I make it even more funny? By telling a story, how can I amplify? How can I exaggerate something that, that might be funny, right? But it's something that is going to be funny because maybe in your vacation in Scotland or wherever you went, you might had similarities, something that like, oh, actually something happened in my vacation that was similar to your story, right? Or, oh yeah, actually I was in a place many years ago and I had a similar experience.
Yeah. And I can see where the senior mind does the same thing. When you start talking about vacations, hopefully you're transporting them back into time, to the times that they used to go on vacation, and something funny happened along the way.
Yes.
And it's amazing how the mind works, even with somebody that is living with dementia. They still can recall long-term in their memories and bring up those funny moments. And it's really fun to watch seniors laugh.
No, it's the best.
Yeah.
And they
love
laughing. In my experience that I've been working in seniors facility for the past year and a half or so, people do love to laugh. They love to laugh and they love to tell stories.
Yeah. And they're not afraid to laugh at themselves.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah. Younger people, not so much about laughing at themselves. It's, it just comes with wisdom and age.
So glad you said that. As a matter of fact, study shows that when like the laughter peak goes down like around age 25, but then it goes back up after like 70s. So something
really?
happens in between, right?
Yeah.
So maybe like when we're older, we just like look back and just think about, oh, I don't know, I guess we get wiser, possibly, right? And we're able to reflect back on things that happen in life with a different perspective. So we're able to like open up and like, oh, laugh about things that happen. They might even be things that were very hard, but like, you know, in that time, but like looking back at it, you know, just like, oh, now I can laugh about it because I'm still here. I can still tell the story and I can share with somebody else.
Yeah. Are you musical?
No, not really.
Because I know a lot of people will use, you know, musical instruments, or they'll use music to also engage people.
Yes.
Like I'm thinking of like the dueling piano type, you know, platform, which is, But I was curious if you had used.
I have musician friends that do work and they told me stories about working like, you know, assistant like living facility. That also music is very, very powerful in that regard, that we can bring people together, can recreate memory, right? Even if somebody that is somewhere else, you know, or like in a late state of dementia, through music, they can come back and they can be in the moment. It's just like click like that. It's magic.
Okay. So I'm a senior, 66. That's what they tell me. I'm a senior. So, suddenly senior. In fact, there was a great, online, presence. It was called Suddenly Senior. And the premise behind the whole, it was satire. It was senior satire. It was really funny. I don't think it's in existence anymore, but I just love that because one of the days you wake up and you go, I'm suddenly a senior. I mean, there's some funniness to that, but in light of all the things that go along with being a senior. So if you were addressing me as we are today, get me to laugh. Come, yeah. Take me down the road if we were in a group right here. I know it's just the two of us. Kind of awkward.
Can you just tell me something that funny that happened to you this last week? Did anything happen to you last week? Did you read anything that was funny? Did you watch anything that was funny? Can you recall of anything that's
See, that's where I'm not that funny because
I'll tell you what. Like, when I first moved to the United States, I might just tell you something. This is personal, okay?
Yeah.
So when I moved to the United States, I was driving. I've been here for 10 years now. The first couple of years, I was driving around with my Italian driver's license. Okay. Then my wife, my American wife, said, "I think you should convert that, right?" And I didn't know that I had to do the whole test again, and I had to go through the whole process again. I thought I'll just go to the DMV, sign a paper, pay some money, and then convert it. And they were like, "No, actually, you have to take the whole test." So when I took the test and when I did the theory, you'd have to answer a certain amount of questions. I can't remember now. I think it was 10 questions. I need to get 7 out of 10 or something like that. There was a question that to me was very interesting. And the question was, if you're driving down the road and somebody approaches you, or like riding a horse and put the end up like this, what does it mean? And is it, please stop, the horse is scared, or there are other animals approaching, or it's just waving at you? And to me, the funny thing was like, when does somebody like, where? Oh, I guess because now I'm in America, maybe things are different. But when on the highway, somebody will ever approach me like riding a horse, So that moment to me was like, it was just funny because it was out of context.
Yeah. We traveled to Scotland this last summer, my wife and I, and my son and other family members, and we had a great time. And I think the funniest thing for me was driving. And driving, they drive on the wrong side of the road. I don't understand that, but I mean, you could have a whole series of jokes and things about the side of the road that they're driving on. And there was many times that I had forgotten and I was going down the right side of the road and cars were coming at me. And it was really interesting. Instead of panicking, my wife and I would just go, "Oh, we're just dumb Americans. We don't know where we're going," and then we would move over to the other side. But nobody could hear us, right?
Right. But like in this moment, you were able to laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a simple moment that instead of getting upset or stressing out, you're like, "Oh, I can change the situation just by laughing at myself, just by saying that, like, oh, whatever, I'm a dumb American." I laugh at myself. I laugh at my, condition of like where I'm from, and I can just switch the situation so simply without getting upset. I'm able to laugh. I go to the other lane. Everybody's safe. Everybody's doing okay. and we continue with our vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with laughter and that we haven't covered yet?
Oh, no, I just want to like remind everybody that like, consider that, like at the end of the day, because I think we live in times that are like, it could be very stressful, and very demanding and such, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing to always consider at the end of the day, have I laughed today? Did I laugh today? Was there anything funny that made me laugh? If that's the case, write it down. And if not, if you feel like, oh, I had a very terrible day, I didn't laugh even for a second today, you know what you could do? You go to the bathroom, you look at yourself in the mirror and have a big laugh. You might want to warn the people outside of the bathroom before you do that, right? They might think you're crazy.
Yeah.
But you go in the mirror and just laugh for like 60 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Just without reason, just try that. It helps. It really like changes the mood, and it's just a good reminder, to take things not so seriously, right? Because sometimes we do that, and that might, I don't know. I think it's good to like take everything in consideration and just like think that like life doesn't have to be so serious all the time.
Yeah. And I read an article from the Mayo Clinic, and they were talking about the short and long-term benefits of laughter and how that has an impact on our bodies.
Yes.
It has an impact, as you were talking about, not only on our bodies, but also on our organs and just even muscle. Just when you smile, how many muscles that you activate in your face is incredible.
Yes. Over 30 muscles you activate when you smile. When you laugh, you produce endorphin, you produce oxytocin, which is the love hormone, and you produce dopamine, which is the thing that makes you feel good just by laughing.
We definitely need more loving in this world. I'll tell you that. That's for sure. All right, Stefano, is there anything else that you want to say? And then for those that want to reach out to you and potentially draw you into their adult living community or into their business, how would they best get a hold of you?
First, I want to quote Victor Borgia, which is one of my favorite comedians. He has a quote that says, "Laughter is the shortest distance between two people." If people want to reach out to me, they can just go on my website, www.stefanoiaboni, that's IAB as in boy, ONI.com. Call me over the phone, 971-276-5109, and I can help them with like boost creativity and bonding and well-being through laughter and humor.
Okay. And you can do that whether it's in a business practice, you can do it in the environment of an adult living community, and I'm sure educational
That is correct.
communities. I mean, there's so many ways that you can reach out. Now, you're here in Portland, Oregon.
I am.
And do you travel to other states? So if somebody's listening in Maine or in Texas,
yes, if they're willing to pay for my travel costs.
There you go. And that elicits a response, a laughing response. But yeah. And the people travel all over the world, to entertain people. And so if you're listening to this show and you want to invite Stefano, once again, your website is Stefano Iaboni.
Yeah.
And it's and your last name is spelled Iaboni.
Correct.
Correct? .com.
Yes.
So, and Stefano is not with a PH.
Stefano.
Yeah, because I made that mistake when I was looking you up originally, and I was going, it says there's no website. Is this guy really real?
Or you can look up for also my company, my LLC is called Smile Solution. I'm not a dentist, but Smile Solution is the company that I work. It's my own company that offers all this experiential training and such.
All right. Well, that's what we need is more people to make us smile, and we definitely want to do that. Okay. So is there anything else?
No, I'm so thankful for being here, Mark.
Yeah.
Thanks again for the opportunity.
Yeah. No, I'm grateful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in practice, in live action as soon as possible.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I'm going to have you come into our company as well and see if we can get some laughter out of.
Oh, yeah.
We're a pretty stoic bunch, but we're having fun, but we're not laughing enough. There's a big difference, isn't there?
It is.
Yeah. All right. All right, this is Mark Turnbull, your host, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in to Aging Today. We are the podcast where together we're exploring the many options to aging on your terms. Join us every Monday when we release a new episode to Aging Today to your favorite podcast channel. And remember this, we're all in the process of aging, and as we age, we really are better together. So stay young at heart.
You make me feel so young. You make me feel like spring has sprung. And every time I see your face, I'm such a happy individual. The moment that you speak, I want to go play hide and seek. I want to go and bounce the moon just like a toy balloon. Well, you and I are just like a couple of tots running across the meadow, picking up lots of forget-me-nots. So you made me feel so young. You made me feel there are songs to be sung, bells to be rung, and a wonderful thing to be fun. And even when I'm old and gray.
You've been listening to Aging Today, where together we explore the options to aging on your terms. Join Mark and his guest next week for another lively discussion on proactively aging on your terms, connecting you to the professional advice of his special guests, with the goal of creating better days throughout the aging process. Your host has been Mark Turnbull. Join Mark and his guests every week on Aging Today, your podcast to exploring your options for aging on your terms.
And even when I'm old and gray, you make me feel the way I feel today, 'cause you make me feel so. You make me feel so. You make me feel so young. So young. You make me feel so young. You make me feel so young.